Some people in the comments have actually called out since the Samsung Fold video that I went back to a brick phone. And more specifically, I went to the OnePlus 11, which makes me really excited to jump 2 generations to the OnePlus 13, which out of the box comes with the most up-to-date Oxygen OS and Android 15, and features the octa-core Snapdragon 8 Elite CPU, which, whoa, hold on, first of all, that is a really pretty blue. Midnight Ocean. I actually really like that. And it feels like, almost like a leathery kind of back compared to, I guess this is, again, 2 generations older, but more of like a plasticky gloss back. Feels really good in the hand. It almost feels like it adds a little bit more texture. As you can see by the crack on mine, it definitely did slip out of my hand while I was on the toilet. So hopefully this color will stay in your hand a little bit more, but let's see what else is in the box here. Oh wow, that is a chunky wall wart, which can deliver 80 watts. I know the phone can do it, but that's awesome that they actually included a wall wart capable of that. Most phones might do some sort of 80 watt or 100 watt fast charging, but will only include a 45 or something watt charger. And of course, OnePlus trademark red, about a, 3.5 foot USB-A to USB-C cable. Touring the outside of the phone here, it actually looks like they've moved the notification slider. So this is where you can have it on silent, vibrate, or your ring on. They've moved it to the left side here. And on the right side, volume up and down, and our power button. And then on the bottom, your SIM tray and your USB-C port there. And then of course on the back, they kind of have their signature circle design with the 3 cameras by Hasselblad, which we'll get into a little bit later here. Let's power on the phone here. And while we're waiting, you can enjoy this message from our sponsor.
Thanks to Lexar for sponsoring this video. Their professional workflow dock is designed with media creation in mind, with 6 modular memory bays for speed and versatility. Its 2 Thunderbolt 4 bays reach transfer speeds of up to 40 gigabits per second, supports 8K monitor support, and you even get a 140 watt GAN charger with a replaceable plug. Get 20% off the entire Lexar workflow series of products using our link in the description today.
There we go. Yep, it looks like a OnePlus phone, which some people have had hot takes over the years about Oxygen OS kind of pivoting to more of a stylized operating system instead of its roots, where it was supposed to be a grounded, more back to roots Android. However you like it, it's up to you. I personally don't care because I joined the OnePlus game kind of late. Speaking of the OS, OnePlus has promised 4 years of Android updates and 6 years of security updates, meaning, you know, as long as phones don't get crazy in performance, it might be worth just holding on to this for those 4 to 6 years. Another feature that I saw a video breakdown by another YouTuber, I forget his name off the top of my head, but they've done quite a few changes between Oxygen OS 14 and Oxygen OS 15. Including some stylized animations, some other security features, like you can actually have your notifications hide if it detects someone is looking over your shoulder, which is kind of cool. I think some people might like those features, and I would say the animations kind of give it more of an iPhone feel, if that's what you're looking for in an Android phone. But having a fancy OS with a bunch of features doesn't really mean anything if you don't have great hardware to power it. And underneath, like I said, that Snapdragon 8 Elite chip is what's powering this phone. It's boasting a 45% performance boost improvement, as well as 44% more efficient on the battery, meaning longer battery life, maybe with watching a YouTube video or better performance in games. This is normally where I would show some numbers about that. But unfortunately, it's the Christmas holidays and our labs was on break. So we don't have any hard numbers on how long this phone will last, but it is powered by a 6,000 milliamp hour battery, which is up there with all the flagship phones. And I think from there, you could probably guesstimate it will last you all day, probably just fine. Charge it overnight or charge it while you're in the shower. And again, that 80 watt fast charging means you can probably charge it pretty quick. And I guess talking about long lasting watching a video or something, we should actually pull up some content on the screen. It looks, again, I would never ever complain watching any sort of media on this phone. It's a 6.8 inch 1440p AMOLED display at 120 hertz. So hopefully some high refresh rate gaming might look really smooth as well. And apparently at DisplayMat, it was the only phone, or the first phone at least, to receive an A++ rating. That should mean it's pretty good. And I think for 99% of people, they would look at this phone and probably go, that's incredible. But half of a video's experience is the audio. I want to hear the speakers. These are definitely not the best speakers I've heard in a phone. In fact, I probably wouldn't want to go much higher than 50%. I'm going to because I want to test it. But I can tell right now that going higher, this is probably gonna suck. They're loud. So if you want everyone in the room to hear it, if you're showing someone a video, that's the mission accomplished. I don't know. I wouldn't say that they're amazing. They would pass a test, you know? I don't know. I think phone speakers always end up peaking usually when they're at 100% anyways, and I have found that on my phones in the past, around that 70% to 80% mark seems to be their peak. In this case, it seems to be about the 50% mark, maybe 60%, before I start noticing some crackling. The bass sounded really good though. It was actually like thumping. But we all know why you guys get phones. You want a game. What, you guys don't have phones? One of the crazy things about that new Snapdragon Elite 8 is it apparently can be equipped all the way up to 24 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. OnePlus has dialed that back. The max you can get is 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage, or starting at 12 and 256. Either way, I think no matter what spec you get, it'll probably translate to some good gaming. So let's give her a try. Oh, Nuketown, let's go.
Yo.
Yeah, I'm a gamer. What can I say? Got a 4K, but as of right now, feels cool in my hand. Doesn't feel like it's getting warm, which is great. It doesn't seem like I'm dropping below 120. I don't have any sort of FPS counter open on screen. So I went in the settings and looked, it's set to 120. It looks to be about the same what I was looking at. You guys won't be able to see it, but it is very smooth. No hitches. I mean, I'm not saying COD is the most demanding of games, but it's definitely up there for a mobile game. Okay, let's look at an actual reason you guys buy a phone sometimes is the cameras. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, it has kind of its signature look of the tri-cameras on the back made by Hasselblad. And each of those 3 cameras on the back is 50 megapixels, which if you remember from the 12, the telephoto lens was actually 64. Why they chose to go from 64 back down to 50, not really sure. Apparently some reviews and some people are saying that it is a little bit worse. I think, again, for most people, it's probably gonna be okay. If you are someone who's buying a phone to go take professional photography, you're not buying a phone. So I think, again, it's gonna be fine for most people. The selfie cam on the front, which as you can see is kind of like a little hole punch camera, it seems to be about the same specs as before, 32 megapixels. And I think I like hole punch cameras. Man, I go back and forth on this decision all the time. I like hole punch cameras more than most underscreen cameras, but then every time I've looked at Red Magic's underscreen camera, that's the best implementation I've ever seen. In this case, it might work. OnePlus does kind of an iPhone thing where they have like a dynamic island at the top where you can see some notifications, see if you're screen recording, seeing if there's some app doing something in the background. And I guess in that sense, you don't notice the hole punch as much. Again, making this phone feel more almost iPhone-y than anything. But let's actually take some photos here. Take a photo of my boys. Yep, that's a phone doing the classic trademark watermark at the bottom. I'm sure you can remove that in the settings. Yeah, that's, I love 0.6 millimeter. This is my selfie. Yep, that's a selfie. Again, shooting towards kind of like Belle and Andrew over there is probably one of the worst case scenarios because there's like studio lights shining directly into the lens. It does a pretty good job. I don't know, I wouldn't complain. Now these cameras can do all the way up to 8K 24 FPS, 4K 60 FPS, but according to the last phone, the OnePlus 12, some people apparently experienced frame drops. So I'm curious if maybe if we do a quick record here, and we'll let it roll for a little bit, if we end up experiencing the same thing. Maybe it was a CPU limitation, maybe it was a RAM limitation, I don't know. We'll let the camera kind of go for a while here. Let's let it play back here and see if we see anything. The stabilization is really good, but that's where I'm noticing the frame drops. I'm noticing occasionally it'll like skip what should be smooth. It's very subtle. And I think for like, obviously if you're trying to record something that maybe you're gonna post on TikTok or for your YouTube channel, obviously hitches are gonna suck and they're gonna, affect the quality of the video. But if you're someone who's just, filming your kid unboxing a Christmas gift, you probably won't really care that much. But it is there. It's definitely an issue I can see. So depending on your use case. Some other quick rapid fire specs about the phone. Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4, IP68 and IP69, and a whole whack ton of AI features. Yeah, you hear the crickets too? I'll never use those features anyways. The starting price for this phone, $900 for the 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256. And then this version here, which is the 16 and 512, is $1,000 US. OnePlus definitely getting into that flagship pricing. And I think the difference between this one and my 11 isn't quite enough to jump, considering I believe my 11 is also going to be getting Oxygen OS 15. But for some of you out there, maybe this is the jump you want to take if you want a more iPhone-y like experience on an Android, or if you're running an even older version of a OnePlus phone. Let me know your guys' thought on the phone. It's $100 more than the 12, which you should go check out. Linus actually did an unboxing of that one last year. Like, comment, subscribe.